Next tab that we have up here is Annotate tab. We can use the items that we have in this segment for setting the dimensions for our objects. For example, I'm going to go ahead and draw or set a pipe here. For example, 30 cm or 300 millimeters. Then minus 600. Let's say here we have an embedded toilet. For the view range, I'm going to go with here. Okay, minus 700. Fine. For the diameter, I'm going to go with 110. Create similar. Move this here. And 300. Yeah, let's say we have something like this. Again, set this on fine. Okay, now if I set this back on plumbing, we can have a better view. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming to connect these parts. Okay. And then we said we need to set this on symmetry. Now, first sub item that we have in Annotate is align. Using this item, we can set horizontal, vertical, and diagonal dimensions. I'm going to select it and then start setting the dimensions like this. Okay, and then we can change up the scale down here. And as I mentioned in the previous sessions, the size would change only graphically. Then another dimension here, this time diagonally. If you select linear option up here, we would only be able to set the horizontal and vertical dimensions. See? We can't set any diagonal dimensions here anymore. And another point that we have here is that Align would recognize the faces as well, but linear option does not do so. See? It doesn't recognize the surface, but it recognizes the vertex. But when we select Align, we would be able to select both vertices and faces. Then the next item that we have here is Angular. Using this item, we would be able to set the angle in between the items and specify the angles. And then we have Radial, which distinguishes the radius of the objects if we have any radiuses. For example, let's see what we have here. Okay, from system, or you know what, from architecture, wall, fillet. I'm going to set a fillet of this corner here. Match properties. There we go. Okay, now back to Annotate. Select Radial. And now I'm able to specify the radius that we have here. And then we have the diameter. Okay, and we have arc length. You can easily guess what it does. For example, we have this arc here. You can easily calculate the length of this arc. Then a very important item is spot elevation. Using this one, we can specify the elevation codes. For example, I'm going to go ahead and select these pipes. Then slope. And add a slope here with only 1%. Finish. Okay, it cannot retain the dimension, so remove it. So I'm going to go ahead and set the dimensions again. And because we added this slope here, we should use the vertices, the points, to add the dimensions. Okay, now select spot elevation, click on the points that we want, and we can get the elevation codes that we have in those points. For example, up here we have minus 511. We can actually specify the top elevation and bottom elevation. I mean, for example, for beneath the pipe. And we can actually show both bottom and top elevations at the same time, like this. So as you can see, we can easily use this wherever we want. And just click on the point and get the height code or elevation code for that specific point. As you can see, we have a plus and a minus number. Right, so as you can see, this is a very useful item. Okay, what else? We have spot slope here as well. You can specify the slopes that we have. For example, let's see what kind of slope that we have for these pipes here. Sorry, you can enter edit type or from manage project units. Remember, all of these dimensions are our general dimensions. So if I go ahead and use spot slope here, to set the slope, I don't need to enter the pipes here and then set the slope from here, because this is particular to pipe slopes only. So for the dimensions that we have here, I'm going to use these general settings. So for example, we have the slope here and it is set on percentage. Where is it? Here. Percentage, 2 decimals. Okay. Now let's go back to edit type. Okay, the units here is set on a riser divided by 1000 millimeters. And if I activate this option here, it'll work based on the project settings. Alright, so let's go back here. We can detect the slope that we got. And then let's see what else we can do. We can select these pipes again. And then select change slope. Let's set it on 1%. We don't have 1%, so cancel. And I'm going to go to system, mechanical set system, then add 1% of slope. Now select the whole pipe again, then set the slope up here on 1%. Okay, now again back to annotate, slope, and start setting the dimensions for our slopes as well. By the way, guys, although I have mentioned how we can select everything using tab, if you still have difficulty understanding this, don't worry, later on in our course, we're gonna explain everything in more details. And for now, just focus on how we can set the dimensions. Okay, another thing that we can work on here is the scale. For example, if I set the scale on 100th here, you can see that everything would be completely disorganized. So we need to modify the scale here. I'm gonna enter edit type and get a duplicate. Let's call it dime 100. Okay, now here for text size first, I'm gonna set this one on 1.5 maybe. Set the gap on 0. Okay, let's see. Yeah, now it's smaller. Okay, we need to do the same for the rest of them. 0, 1.5, or maybe 1. Yeah, this is actually better. Okay, now for the spot elevation, text offset on 0, text size on 1. Then we have the linear dimension here, 0, 1. Just remember to create the duplicates to create a new type for yourselves. So that we're going to change this to 1. Okay, I'm going to set this on transparent to create some sort of a mask here. All right, let's see what else. Up here we have the width. Let's set this on 0.9. Yeah, I guess this is working here. And after that, we have dimension line extension here. I'm going to set it on 1.2. Right, yeah, this is good. Now for the witness line gap, I'm going to select fixed to dime line. And for its number, I'm going to go with 1.5. This would be our fixed length. And for the extension, I'm going to go with 0.75. All right, so this is good. Let's see what else we have. Up here, we can specify the symbol. For example, I'm going to select arrow with 15 degrees. Now, one thing that we can't do here is to specify the size of our symbol. To do this, we need to go to Manage, and then Additional Settings, Annotation, Arrowhead. Okay, now select the type. What was the symbol? Arrow 15 degrees. And again, don't forget to create the duplicate. Specify some name for it. And then I'm going to set this on 1, for example. Now, again, I'm going to select this dimension and replace this symbol. When we do this, other symbols, other default symbols that we have used before won't change. And yeah, now it's better. Again, we have another symbol here for the slope. For the length, I'm going to go with 5. And again, the arrow, 15 degrees. I mean, the one that we have created. Okay, and as you can see, everything is now more well organized. We have another spot elevation up here. Again, I'm going to set this on 1/100th. And we can change the location. I mean, we can move these numbers to any other point that we want. And overall, this is how we can control the dimensions in our projects using the items that we have in Annotate tab.